Now, if you remember, we spoke in the very beginning about the F.O.E model. This is one of my favorite models for unpacking challenging, difficult conversations. The F.O.E model, the facts, the opinions, and the emotions. This simple framework helps you to decode what's really going on in a conversation, what's really being said. Because, let's be honest, most of us don't speak in clear facts. We mix what happened with how we feel about what happened. Sometimes we trade that with what other people tell us what happened, and before you know it, we really never get to what's really going on and what it really means. And if you respond without actually separating those layers, you're likely to miss the point. At the very best, at the very worst, things could spiral into challenging conversations and even conflict. So here's a model to use. F is for the facts. What's the objective? What are the verifiable facts? What's the data? So for example, if you took a camera and took a photograph of the situation, what would be clear about that situation that would show up in any specific conversation? Verifiable data and facts. O is for opinions. Now these opinions are personal interpretations, they're judgments, laced with beliefs, confirmation biases. It's quite a complex ball wrapped up in emotions. But we can sometimes see those as facts. And then wrapping around the facts and the opinions, we have the emotions. The emotions are the underlying feelings, the driving tone, the language, the reactions, all of this put into content. And so imagine somebody says, "You never back me up in meetings." Now they think that's a fact. Others might think that's an opinion. But then there's laced with an emotion. This is not actually a fact. It's an opinion, but it's probably driven by a much deeper emotion, like they feel unsupported or invisible. A good communicator doesn't back themselves defensively and start firing back with defensive comments. Instead, they slow down and they think, what's the fact here? Maybe in the last meeting I didn't speak up. What's the opinion? Well, they might think that I don't support them. And what's the emotion? Possibly frustration, disappointment, maybe even embarrassment. So here's where the F.O.E model becomes really powerful, because you don't just hear what they say, you start to hear what they mean. And that gives you choices. So let's apply this back to the situation with Emma and Mark for the example that we used in our workshop. If you remember, Mark says, "Finance always shuts down innovation." Well, was that a fact? Well, Emma said no to the €500,000 request. That's a fact. The opinion is that finance are anti-innovation. The emotion here is likely frustration, maybe fear, maybe failing on and falling behind some of their competitors. So you can see how this is all mixed up, and this then leads us to deliver a specific response. Now, if Emma responds to the opinion by trying to argue against it, she'll go round in circles. But if she responds to the emotions by saying, "It sounds like you're feeling blocked in doing your best work," she shifts the conversation from being a conversation where it's combative to a conversation which is more collaborative. So here's your takeaway. When you're in a conversation and it's difficult and it starts to turn from casual to crucial, remember to ask yourself, what is the fact here? What's their opinion? What emotions might be driving this conversation? And you can use the F.O.E model in real time. You could say something like, "Let me check to make sure I've understood this. And here's what I've heard. And here's what I think might be behind it." And then always double check, did I get it right? This kind of reflective listening helps you become much more powerful in your conversations. It calms down the room. It shows that you're listening. It gives the other person the chance to clarify, or maybe even shift their conversation. So the reflection prompt for this video is, think about a recent conversation that you've had. What was the fact? What was the opinion? And what was the emotion that was driving the conversation? Think about what would you have done differently. Now that you are aware of this model, what would you have done differently through the F.O.E lens? Now this model, the F.O.E model, is a game changer when stakes are high, especially when you need to stay grounded and clear-headed. In the next video, we'll explore the 4 styles of negotiation. We talked about those in our workshop: the diplomat, the challenger, the observer, and the investigator, and how important it is that knowing your style and how that shifts under stress and pressure, this can transform the way you show up in your next difficult conversation.